This is One on One. I'm Stacey Carmichael, and today I'm joined by the Honorable Catherine Hughes, Minister of Public Telecommunications. Welcome, Minister. And today we'll be discussing the achievements, challenges, and what is to come in the public telecommunications sector. Minister, it's a pleasure having you on the program today.
It's great to be here, Stacey.
Now, let's jump right into the questions. Another year is almost over, 2019 finished. We're in December. And I'm sure there are a lot of achievements your ministry has that you would like to discuss with us.
Absolutely. 2019 was a phenomenal year for the Ministry of Public Telecommunications. It was a great year because, you know what? A lot of the programs and projects that we started in 2016 when the ministry was formed actually got to the stage where you're seeing the results, where the people of Guyana, where citizens and young people are now able to benefit. So it has been really, really great in that respect.
Okay. And could you expound, what are some of the projects that you're most pleased with that your ministry has been able to accomplish?
Okay, well, you know, I have several agencies under my ministry, so I'll briefly touch on a few of them. Let me start with the post office. This year we were able to renovate 4 post offices. As you know, when the ministry was formed, we really got a range of post offices that had poor infrastructure, poor washroom facilities. And the post office does not get a subvention from government. So, of course, that makes it difficult, but I'm so excited. We were able to renovate the post office in Soesdijk, in Anna Regina. The one we're now working on Plaisance. Very soon we're going to move to Buxton. And there's one other that I'm missing. The one in Linden, we also renovated that one. So I'm excited about that. The post office has a swift shipping facility where they are able to do express shipping. As you can imagine, a lot of the services of the post office have had to change with time and with technology. And so we're focusing more on technology, fast shipping services, and on our swift shipping service, we actually had an income of 11 million in 2017. By 2019, we're at $34 million. So I'm excited about that because that's the money we're plowing back in to ensuring we can provide better services at our post offices, especially for our pensioners. If I talk about the telecommunications agency, many people will know that that agency was formed after the legislation of 2016, the Telecommunications Act, mandated that the National Frequency Management Unit be closed and the new agency emerge. We're looking at an environment that will have more players, a one-stop shop, so persons don't have to go to 3 and 4 different agencies. And so that agency was formed, and I'm quite excited that it's going very, very well. And of course, you know, they deal with spectrum, with frequencies, for boats, for taxis, for all kinds of things. So we had that major merger there. The Arthur Chung Convention Center, it reopened last year, doing amazing things this year, several different functions. And so that also has been doing very well. I think the highlight this year has also been the opening of the Center of Excellence in Information Technology. People will remember that was a partnership with the Indian government. They funded the center, and that's where we've been able to provide training in information technology in all the different areas, from programming to coding to all kinds of other areas, mainly for the public sector. And happy to say that we're now in discussions with the Indian government, and we're going to be making that facility also, and the training opportunities also open to persons in the private sector. And that entity is very, very important because, as you know, we're trying to bring the use of technology more into the way we do business in Guyana, the way the government operates. And so the Center of Excellence is key in ensuring that we are able to train people. When it comes to our ministry also, as you may know, we have an industry and innovation unit. Just last weekend, we were able to host another hackathon. And the hackathons are really great in terms of whipping up interest in the private sector amongst persons that are working in the IT field. And this is for the coders, for the programmers. And this time, the task they had was to develop an app, an application that deals with the challenges we have in reporting crime, especially in the area of domestic violence, and also in terms of how we catalog information, how we look at the storage of information. And so we're very, very happy that we had a partnership with UNDP under one of our projects that we have with them. And we had a winner. Everybody spent 48 hours with little sleep coming up with some great programs and solutions to that challenge. And so I'd love to delve a little more in a minute into the training that we've done through industry and innovation, but I hope that gives you an idea of the amazing things we've done.
Yes, Minister, thank you so much. Now, as we're on training, you mentioned training, and I know you want to delve into that a lot. What are some of the programs that were implemented under the ministry that, have been helpful for young people and getting more people involved in ICT?
Right. So as you know, we have a specific program where we focus on training young persons because we recognize that by 2025, 70% of the jobs in the world will require some knowledge of ICT. And so this year I'm so happy because we had code camps for 9 to 15-year-olds, and we were able to do that. These camps were held every Saturday for a 12-week period. So it was a very, very comprehensive program. And we held them at the University of John's campus in Thane. And then we also had it at the New Amsterdam Technical Institute, the Linden Technical Institute, the Government Technical Institute in Georgetown, and also the Essequibo Technical Institute. And we're happy that we've been able to get certification for these courses now. We actually have a business and a trainer on our staff. So the whole TVEC certification program is an important aspect of what we're doing. So we're not just training to say we did a small training course. It's very comprehensive, and it has a competency-based training with that. We've also done quite a bit of training in terms of writing code, in terms of how to use the internet safely, website design. This year, in the area of the work we do with persons with disabilities, I'm very, very excited that, as you know, we were able to implement some of the concessions that Ministry of Finance gave us, and those were an elimination of taxes on the purchase of a smartphone if you are registered with the Disabilities Commission. And also we had 3 persons that were actually able to get a vehicle that was retrofitted for their physical disability, and they were not required to pay any duty on those. So we're starting small, but the way we are able to use technology to enhance the lives of persons with disabilities is very important to us. One of the highlights this year is that because of those 2 initiatives that we did, we actually were spotted by the International Telecommunications Union. They came down and they did a web accessibility training program. And what that means simply is that it recognized that a lot of websites in Guyana, especially government websites, are the ones that we're most concerned about, but we're talking about the private sector websites too, are not accessible for persons with a visual disability or a hearing disability. And here we're talking about if you put a photograph on your website, how does a blind person get a sense of what's in that photograph? And so there's very specific coding elements that are embedded in how the website is designed. So we were able to train the ITU, which is based in the US, came down with a team of 4 people, and they trained about 30 persons in Guyana, mainly the IT professionals with all the ministries. So next year, we should start to see the revamping of websites, especially government websites. So if you're hearing impaired or blind, you will still be able to go to those websites and get the important, valuable information that you're looking, that you need to get. That was really a highlight because, as I said, it was the trainers program. We were able to sign on to MOU just about a month ago with the University of Guyana. And so they will be going out to the private sector and to the public sector and offering this training on web accessibility websites. And I was very, very excited because based on our work with persons with disabilities, in fact, I could mention that we also this year gave tablets and other equipment to persons living with disabilities through the Blind Institute to be able to help in some way that they can use it for educational purposes. I'm always excited when you hear of young people that are taking the CSEC exam or even CAPE, and they are visually or living with some disability, but they're excelling as anybody else. So that's some of the training. We did a lot of training too in the Rupununi areas. We have had a focus on making sure that we take internet connectivity to most of our hinterland areas. And I want to say that these are areas that were left behind. Guyana literally left them behind for decades. These are places where sometimes there's not even one of the 2 cell phone providers. Some of them have absolutely nothing. And so for us, it was important to take internet connectivity as a way for them to start to communicate with themselves, with their villages around them. We also, as an administration, created quite a few radio stations. So communication is important. And so I'm very, very excited that we now have about 75 locations in the remote hinterland areas. In fact, I can mention a few. These are places like Arnaputa, Wurweta, Yakarinta, Moka Moka, Napi, Itabali, many, Baidarabu, many places in about 5 or 6 of the regions where traditionally they don't have the luxury of internet access. And of course, we've beefed up our ICT hubs. In most of these hinterland areas, what we're also doing is creating ICT hubs or creating a hotspot where there's internet access. We went to Monkey Mountain, for example, where there are no cell phone service, there's no internet, and we were, as you would know, they opened up just recently the lapidary. And therefore, here is a development where the members in the community are now able to make the most beautiful semi-precious stones. And so the internet allows them to push the entrepreneurial aspect, because now with access to the internet, they can sell those gems, those stones, the amethyst, the topaz that I saw. They can sell it to the jewelry stores in Georgetown. In any part of the region, in the Caribbean region, any part of the world now, they can do business. And that's the whole thrust of bringing internet into these areas. So, by the start of this year, we could boast that we had close to 100 and now maybe 180 ICT hubs. Some of them have changed a bit in form, in that in some of these locations there's an issue of power. So we haven't been able to put in the laptop computers that are there all the time. But this is where our tablet initiative has worked very well, because most of these remote places, some have power and some have generators and some have solar. And I'm excited as to what we're going to be able to do next year, because next year our Hinterland Poor and Remote Communities project will be able to deliver a solar component, which allows us to go to even more locations than we didn't get to. So by 2021, our intention is to cover close to 200 communities. And I want to say also that what's very important in the work of our ministry and this outreach and putting internet access that's not been there before is that we are putting government services online. So the idea is that if you are in, let's say, Monkey Mountain, where you may not have access to information, it allows the students in Monkey Mountain to start to be able to do their SBAs, their research at a higher level because they have internet access to facilitate that. It allows them in time to network with the Ministry of Education, to be able to connect to a school or a facility or a smart classroom at Queen's College. That's the thrust for next year. So that if they don't have the teachers in a particular subject, the fact that they're located in a hinterland area is no longer a detriment to them. We are, in fact, beginning to bridge that digital divide. And in terms of having more government services online, you know that our ministry is working closely with the Ministry of Citizenship, for example. Eventually, by the end of next year, visas can be done online. We have a lot of foreigners applying for work visas for Guyana, visas to visit Guyana if they're in countries where they require a visa. So all of that has already started, and I think we are becoming more efficient. We're talking about putting the driver's license theory test online. We're talking about doing your business registration already. GRA has a lot of services. So we're supporting all these amazing things that have been done. I would be the first to say that where we have failed is we've failed to publicize sufficiently all the great and wonderful things we've done. In the area of health, you know, we're using IT and the connectivity in those locations to improve health. So if you call the Linden Hospital now, sorry, not the Linden, the Latham Hospital, they now have internet access. And a couple of weeks ago, I popped by and they were most excited. I was called, before I even walked in and said, how's the internet? The administrator, one of the doctors was telling me that he was speaking to a doctor in Linden on the internet. So communicating with hospitals, communicating with healthcare workers, we've given a lot of tablets to healthcare workers and to teachers in many of these locations where we've put the connectivity, because a teacher can use it to enhance how they teach a class. And a healthcare worker can sit with a resident who needs a little more information on some disease that they might be living with or some concern they have about a medical issue. And it allows them to interact with other parts of the country and the healthcare establishment, but initially to get just basic information. So in the area of health, in the area of education, I think the internet connectivity and in the area of entrepreneurial activity, it's really revolutionizing. And, you know, every day I'm fortunate to get a WhatsApp message or a text from somebody from some area, some remote area that says, thank you, Minister. We now have some internet connection and it's changing the way we are able to live. So I am so excited. I am very, very proud. You know, my mission as a minister was to make sure that I could leave a mark. I don't want to walk this ground and not be able to say that, guess what? There are quite a few lives that have been changed based on what my ministry was able to do. So I am very, very excited. I didn't mention Public Utilities Commission. They have a new office now in Linden, you know. So in all the aspects of my ministry, I think we have done amazing work, and I think this is a good point for me to thank my staff if they're listening, because they're an amazing group of people and I couldn't have done it without them.
Thank you very much, Minister. Now, these achievements are great, and as we continue to provide internet access across the country, there is a concern in terms of cybersecurity threats.
Yeah.
What is the government and the ministry more so doing to protect users online?
Yeah. Well, we've been building our cybersecurity unit. And what the public would not know is that we have sent all our staff. In fact, there are about 5 of them on staff full time. And then, of course, remember, we work closely in this area with the Ministry of Public Security, because they also look at that area. But we've sent our staff on regular training to keep up to date with international trends. They are part of the Caribbean program for cybersecurity. And I would encourage people to visit our website, because every time there's information of a new threat, a new virus that could be downloaded or whatever, we make sure that we put it out there. We also receive calls from several agencies that that may have had a threat and will ask us to investigate. And again, our cybersecurity unit is there to provide service. We have had good relations with the Ministry of Education in this area. And I think it would be good for me to mention that as we put the internet in these locations across the country, we always speak, in my presentation, I always speak to the threats. Because remember, there's a lot of good, but there's also a lot of bad. So we, for start, we make sure that the internet we provide prohibits access to pornographic sites. It has a security aspect to it, whereby if anyone is searching websites for terrorism information, for any kind of violent purchasing of materials, guns, ammunitions, that kind of thing, we have embedded a block, and we actually have a security trail too, so we can track that. So it's not something that we speak about all the time, but we are protecting our students, our schools, because as you know, we're proud of the fact that we've provided free internet. And I want to highlight, this internet is free to all these communities. Before, communities prior to 2016, some of the indigenous communities that have challenges in making ends meet would have had to find the funds to go to a private sector company to get the internet. And so it really is being well received because it's absolutely free. It's government's responsibility, we feel, to make sure people can communicate. So we are working very strongly with education, with schools, and with parent-teachers associations. And like I said, a lot of our information is on our website.
Yes, Minister, thank you so much for that. As we come to wrap up time, in light of the upcoming oil and gas sector, how is the ministry planning to align public telecommunications with that new sector? What are some of the developments we can see going into 2020?
Well, one of the things I didn't mention is our national broadband project. And as you know, we've set up close to 100 cameras around Georgetown, and we now have a command center where all the feeds from those cameras come into a central location. And I want to let people know that the police service have actually, the security services have been using that information to be able to deal with crime. And as you know, they've been doing an excellent job. That unfortunately, if an event happens today, at least by 2 days or 3 days, they're able to catch somebody, a perpetrator, and to bring them through the courts and to deal with that. So that's always encouraging. But I mention that because what we are doing under that project also, that's the Safe City component. But part of the project actually looks at providing a landscape that allows us to have secure internet capabilities and secure communications. So we have actually expanded our fiber optic network. So more government agencies are operating at a higher level of quality and a higher level of service, meaning that they all have internet connection. It's good, safe internet connection, which means that they can respond to the new demands of the oil and gas sector. One of the things that we're also doing, as I said, is ministries now have hotspots, which makes it easier for a business, an individual dealing with a ministry to be able to get faster service. One of the things that we're also doing is that in the whole providing a better landscape, we have been able to establish a relationship with two very important agencies. One is the Business Center, which is connected to Exxon. We are actually now going to be putting their online training program that talks about the oil industry and what Guyanese can expect, what jobs are available. This right now is at their center in Georgetown, but we're going to be doing that at our ICT hubs and locations. So it means that anybody can go to a location where there's free internet access at a ICT hub, for example, and be able to access Exxon's information, that database. And also, most excitingly, we signed on to a partnership this year, in the latter part of this year, with MacCorp for their Technicians of the Caribbean training program. And right now, we have about 4 locations where we are training. We have close to 160 people, young people, that are doing this certified training program, which means that they go into these 4 locations. There's a trainer there, there's support staff there, and they're going through an online certification program with MacCorp. As you know, MacCorp deals with the Caterpillar equipment. It's training to maintain heavy-duty equipment that is used in the mining and the industrial sector, and that has gotten great reviews. We've had a lot of young men who previously were just hanging on, the street corner, that are engaged in that program. And we now are looking for more training locations with computers, because we've had a huge demand. 160 young people that are going through this certified program, that after a year allows them to get a job with MacCorp, to be able to set up their own business, servicing equipment for the mining communities in any part of Guyana. The opportunities are immense, and we are quietly doing our thing.
Thank you very much, Minister. Now, we've come to the end of our discussion, but before we go, is there a Christmas message you would like to send to the general public, staff, before we wrap up?
I'd like to wish all of Guyana a safe and happy Christmas. I worry about the unnecessary deaths that we've had in the last couple of weeks. I also want you to look at the glass as being not half empty, but half full. I think when you look at it as being half full, then you recognize the opportunities that are there. We still have some ICT hubs where people don't know. If they go to our website, just do a search for Ministry of Public Telecommunications, mopt.gov.gy, and you will see a list of over 175 ICT hubs. Find the location near to you. Take your child there if you don't have internet at home. Encourage them to use the facility. It actually has all the textbooks for the Ministry of Education. It has loads of good information. And I just want to say that there are a lot of facilities that have been put in place, and we need to use them. You need to make the best of what has been put in place. I don't want any excuses, so to speak. And, there are exciting things happening next year. We are going to be going to even more communities. To the communities that I get messages about, I know you haven't seen us yet, but just be inspired by the fact that we've done more than 100 hinterland communities now, and we will get to you. We will get to you. Give us the opportunity to be here beyond March, and I promise I'll get to you. Merry Christmas to everybody.
Thank you so much for joining us on One on One. This has been One on One. I'm Stacey Carmichael, and with me today was the Honorable Catherine Hughes, Minister of Public Telecommunications.